The page wasn't supposed to be open. It had been closed. He remembered that clearly. He always closed it. A hardbound, leather-covered therapy journal that sat on the edge of his desk, a relic of quiet rituals. He wasn't the kind of man who journaled about his dreams or colored his thoughts with metaphor. It had started at the suggestion of Dr. Macmillan, who said writing might help organize the noise. So he wrote. A couple sentences a day, nothing dramatic, mostly observations, frustrations, dry notes about moments that left an aftertaste. It was never supposed to be interesting. Just clarifying. A private place to throw static against a wall. But tonight, when he walked into his study after tucking Jonah into bed, the journal sat open, center of the desk, spine stretched flat, a page exposed that had no business being visible. He paused at the doorway. The window was half open, breeze nudging the curtains with a sound like breath through teeth. Lamplight carved shadows into the grain of the desk, into the creases of the chair's worn leather arms. For a long second, nothing moved, not even him. His eyes landed on the handwriting. Not the opening line, but somewhere in the middle. Words he knew too well. Words he'd written without editing, without a filter, not knowing how ugly they looked from the outside. She moaned a name that wasn't mine. He hadn't meant to write it like that. He'd meant to bury it, to dilute it into something clinical. He remembered sitting there in a fog of disbelief 2 weeks ago, gripping the pen so tightly his knuckles cracked, trying to write down what had happened without losing his mind in the process. They were arguing, she was drunk, and in the heat of it she spat something, a name, that slipped through her lips like muscle memory. His name. And it wasn't his. The syllables stuck in the air like a cough that doesn't belong in the middle of silence. She blinked after she said it. That's the part he never wrote down. The blink. Not of realization, but of failure, as if her mind had reached for a person and pulled out the wrong file. He stepped into the room slowly, as if noise would make the moment worse. His shoes made no sound on the old rug. The only noise was the ticking of the thermostat and the pulse in his ears. That page had been 5 back, maybe 6. He always bookmarked the most recent one. A strip of his son's Spider-Man wrapping paper stuck between the last 2 entries. But now it lay discarded beside the journal, folded once and crumpled slightly. Not thrown, not disrespectfully, but moved, touched, set aside. Jonah had been in here. That was certain. Maybe looking for the old graphing calculator, maybe a ruler for his science fair project. The desk drawer had been opened too, just slightly, as if closed in a hurry. The calculator still inside. No attempt to hide it. Just the faint imprint of interruption. His throat dried as he stepped to the desk. He didn't need to reread the page. He could see it like a watermark behind his eyelids. The paragraph just above the incriminating line was about Jonah's soccer game. About how he pretended to be okay on the bleachers, cheering while imagining his wife's phone lighting up with someone else's name. The journal didn't mention specifics. No last names. No confrontation. Just impressions, questions, and the sharp snap of reality breaking routine. Still, any 12-year-old who read far enough could piece it together. His fingers hovered above the paper. He thought about turning the page. About shutting the book and pretending the interruption hadn't happened. But that would be a lie. And lies were her territory now. Outside, a dog barked once, sharp and distant. A gate creaked open. The wind picked up slightly, bringing with it the faintest trace of her perfume from the hallway, citrus and something artificial. She always reapplied before coming upstairs, even when there was no one to impress. He closed the journal. Slowly. Carefully. He didn't lock it. He never had. His eyes drifted toward the doorway again, as if expecting Jonah to be standing there, asking something innocent. But the hallway was empty. Just carpet and quiet and the gentle hum of a house that hadn't caught up with the truth yet. He picked up the piece of Spider-Man paper and smoothed the fold with his thumb. It was a small thing. An object with no meaning until now. Just like the journal had been. Just like the moan had been, until he realized it wasn't his name. That was the moment the crack started. Now it was spreading, not loudly, not violently, but with surgical certainty. A fissure running beneath the floorboards of their home, reaching into corners untouched by the spotlight. And Jonah had seen something. Maybe not everything, but enough. He turned off the desk lamp and walked out without a sound. Not toward her. Not toward confrontation. He went back upstairs and stood outside his son's door for a moment. The kind of moment that stretches, unblinking, across the rest of your life. He didn't knock. He didn't need to. Some truths have a way of whispering themselves, even to those who never asked to hear them. Mornings changed first. Not in any dramatic way. There were still coffee cups, still the sound of the kettle, still the same radio station humming just low enough to be ignored. But something about them started to feel rehearsed. Her robe hung differently. Her presence was clipped, sharper around the edges, like her silhouette had been trimmed down to essentials. She moved like someone avoiding a room she was already standing in. He noticed it in how she stirred her coffee 3 times clockwise instead of 2. He noticed it in how she greeted Jonah with too much enthusiasm, like a babysitter trying to make the morning fun. When she spoke to him, her husband, it was always about the logistics of the day. Never questions, never reflections, just headlines. It was mid-March when she started saying the word space again. Not angrily, not even pointedly, just the word, floating in her sentences like a garnish. I think we need to give Jonah some space to express himself more. Or, I've been thinking about personal space lately and how we define it, like boundaries, emotional ones. Once, while chopping vegetables, she said, "It's important to allow each other growth," and then asked if he could pick up almond milk on his way home. He started to nod at these phrases like one nods at street signs they've passed too many times to read anymore. At night, she slept with her back turned. Not always, but enough. Her body curved away, spine pulled taut beneath the sheets like a bowstring, as if the mattress had chosen sides. She used to fall asleep tangled around his arm, sometimes with her mouth half open, muttering soft nonsense in her dreams. Now she barely touched him. Her sleep became an escape tunnel, and he was left on the surface, digging after her with his silence. Once, he reached for her foot under the covers, just grazing it with his toe. She flinched, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Then she pretended to be asleep. His mind started stacking details like dead flies in a windowsill. She'd stopped wearing her wedding ring, claimed it was because of a rash. She never texted in front of him anymore, said it was work stress and constant messages from the agency. She locked her phone, not with a password, but a facial scan. One night, he asked to check the calendar app for Jonah's dentist appointment. She hesitated, just for a breath, but it was enough. She tilted the phone so he couldn't see the notifications, handed it over like a weapon that might detonate. There was still sex. Twice in February, once in early March. Functional, timed like laundry. She smiled afterward, said, "I needed that," and rolled away. The thing that started to scare him wasn't that she didn't love him. It was that she might never have. That what he mistook for the quiet contentment of a deep relationship had actually been something hollow with good lighting. Set design. Polished delivery. A life with the sound turned down. The almost moment came on a Thursday night. Jonah was at a sleepover, and they were supposed to have a movie night. She picked the film, some indie romantic comedy she claimed was realistic but tender. He sat beside her on the couch, close enough to smell the unfamiliar perfume she'd started wearing. Spicier, bolder, like she was trying to speak in a different language. Halfway through the movie, she got up to get wine. Her phone buzzed as she left the room, face down on the coffee table. It shouldn't have meant anything, just a buzz. But it was the sound, not the message, not the sender, that pulled him. A low vibration, extended, like a heartbeat caught in a chest too small to hold it. He reached for it. He didn't flip it over. He didn't unlock it. He just stared at the screen, still pulsing softly with light. It had lit up once, paused, then again. The second one longer. The name wasn't visible, just the outline of it under privacy settings. But the pattern was wrong. The rhythm of it. It wasn't a work message. It wasn't a reminder. It was someone waiting. He set the phone down exactly where it had been and returned to his seat. She came back, 2 glasses in hand, smiling too brightly. The kind of smile you flash to defuse a question before it's asked. She curled into him then, or pretended to. Her body leaned just enough to simulate contact, but her core remained unreachable. He looked at the wine glass she gave him. She never used to bring him the stemless ones. She knew he hated those, said they felt like drinking out of a jar. But tonight, here it was. A mason glass clink of love gone numb. When the movie ended, she said something about how real love was messy, and then yawned and kissed his temple with a precision that felt like a scene wrap. She went upstairs first. He stayed behind, watching the blue glow of the credits paint the empty room. He didn't ask. He didn't demand. He just stopped believing. Something had ended without permission, and the rest was just choreography. He watched her now the way one watches a magician with too many rings, knowing the trick, waiting for the reveal. And every smile she gave him from then on landed like a thread in slow motion. It was the drawing that broke him. Not the act itself, just what it meant. It was a Thursday evening, Jonah's backpack open on the dining room table, pencil shavings scattered across math worksheets and a half-eaten granola bar. He was cleaning up, moving like muscle memory through the quiet aftermath of dinner, when he noticed the folded sheet of printer paper, slightly thicker than the rest. Just a school sketch, he thought. Maybe something from art class. He unfolded it lazily, more out of curiosity than intent, and then the world around him began to slow. The drawing was a house, his house. Their house. Detailed, almost architectural in its angles and shading. Jonah had always been precise like that. But the figures were what stopped his breath, 3 people drawn in tight lines at the center. Jonah, unmistakable with his signature red hoodie and messy hair. Emily, in her long cardigan and boots. And a man who wasn't him. Taller. Broad shoulders. A square jaw that Jonah had never seen his father shave. The figure's hand rested on Emily's lower back, fingers drawn too carefully to be accidental, and her smile, cartoonish, sure, but unmistakably different. Bigger. Brighter. And in the corner of the page, almost hidden behind the outline of their hedge, was another smaller figure. Alone. Watching. The lines were rushed, dark, almost scratched into the paper like an afterthought. His own face, featureless except for the heavy bags under the eyes. It was a child's image, but not a child's mistake. This wasn't pretend. This wasn't fiction. This was memory, rendered in graphite and gilt. The kind of truth a kid doesn't say out loud, but still has to unload somewhere. His heart didn't race. His breath didn't hitch. It was colder than that. A quiet internal shift, like metal sliding into alignment. There had been clues, always clues. The phone turned upside down. The perfume. The overuse of the word space like it was a passcode for detachment. But this wasn't her mistake. It was Jonah's honesty. A child too young to understand betrayal, but old enough to feel the air in the room shift when his mother's laugh wasn't meant for his father. He set the drawing down, pressed the crease back into the fold with slow, deliberate fingers. Didn't even glance toward the hallway where Emily was humming to herself, some meaningless melody as she loaded the dishwasher like nothing in the world was broken. That was the moment he disconnected. No anger. No bargaining. Just distance, immediate and surgical. Something primitive in him stopped reaching, stopped hoping. He had thought he was holding a marriage together. Now he realized he was holding on to a corpse someone else had been puppeting with practiced grace. He walked to his study in silence, turned the lock on the door for the first time in months. Not to protect his journal this time. No, he wasn't documenting. He was drafting. Planning. He pulled out the fireproof file box from under the bookshelf. Started sorting. Bank statements. Titles. Birth certificates. Password sheets. He moved like a man setting charges beneath a building everyone still thinks is safe. He didn't text her. Didn't question her. The questions were gone now. And if she noticed the stillness in him, she said nothing. Maybe she liked it. Maybe she thought that silence was surrender. She didn't realize it was reconnaissance. That her son had handed him the war plans in crayon. That the time for doubt was over, and now came the reckoning. He wasn't going to fight for her anymore. He was going to fight around her. And if she got caught in the crossfire, so be it. She'd laid the minefield. Now she could walk it blind. It started in the kitchen, of all places. A neutral zone. Harmless. She was making tea, humming something tuneless under her breath, moving with the confidence of someone who thought she still controlled the narrative. He sat at the table, not saying a word. Just watching her. That alone was enough to shift the air. She felt it, too. He saw the way her hand paused mid-reach for the mug, a half-second too long before she forced a smile and turned toward him. "You're quiet tonight," she said, light, casual, practiced. "Everything okay?" He let the question hang. Then, Jonah left something in his backpack. Her face twitched, just a little, but her smile held. Did he forget homework again? He didn't blink. A drawing. That got her. Her spine straightened, the mug lowering just slightly. Oh, still playing innocent. He draws a lot these days. Kids process things through art. It's good for him. Interesting, he replied, voice dry. Especially since he seems to be processing a man I've never met. One who holds your waist like it's his. She froze. No blink this time. Just stillness, as if debating whether to run or perform. The mask settled over her face fast. That's ridiculous, she said, almost laughing. He probably saw something online. Or drew a character. You're reading too much into it. He tilted his head. So Jonah imagined a man who wears your perfume, drives a silver Acura, and apparently visits when I'm traveling? This is insane, she snapped, louder now. You're interrogating me over a child's doodle? No, he said, sharper now. I'm confronting you with the evidence your son didn't even know he was giving. That's the part that should scare you, Emily. He didn't tell me. He showed me, without realizing it. You've been spying on him, she deflected, eyebrows raised, trying to pivot. You're weaponizing our child? I'm not the one who made our son witness something he couldn't explain, he shot back, rising now. He didn't need to know. But you made him know. You made it his reality. She turned away, pacing, arms crossed. You've always had control issues. You think you're so calm and righteous, but you're just cold. You make me feel like I live in a museum. And you decided to burn it down, he said, stepping closer, voice low. You didn't just cheat on me. You rewrote the story of our home. You let him watch it rot without a word. It wasn't like that, she hissed, voice cracking under pressure. I was lonely. And you haven't looked at me the same in years. You live in your head. You plan, you watch, but you don't feel. I felt every lie, he said, gaze fixed on her. Every shift in your voice. Every time you touched your phone like it had more intimacy than I did. I felt all of it. I just didn't let it show. She scoffed, wiping at her cheek. So what now? You want to ruin me in front of our son? You want to tear this whole thing down over a mistake? He laughed once. No joy in it. No, Emily. You tore it down. I'm just letting the dust settle. And it's not a mistake. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. You built another life. In our son's mind. In his art. That's not a mistake. That's a monument to betrayal. He doesn't know anything, she whispered, voice trembling now. He's just a kid. He knows enough, he said, voice rising for the first time, not with fury but finality. He knows something is wrong. He feels it every time you smile at me like you're acting in a play he didn't audition for. He sees you glow when your phone buzzes and fade when I speak. He knows his family's falling apart, and you let him believe it was normal. She was unraveling now, shoulders sagging, breath hitching. I didn't mean for it to get this far. But you hoped it would, he said, each word precise. You hoped I'd stay numb, that Jonah wouldn't notice, that you could ride this lie until it was convenient to tell the truth. But here it is, on a piece of paper, drawn in pencil, with lines he shouldn't know how to draw yet. Please, she whispered, tears breaking now. We can fix this. Don't do this here. Not like this. He stared at her. The woman who had practiced detachment like a performance, who had lied with a laugh and betrayed with a whisper. Now shivering, breaking, reduced not by his rage, but by his refusal to soften. He didn't speak. He didn't leave. He just watched. And that silence, full of everything he would never forgive, was the final blow. You're overreacting, she said first, the words brittle, almost rehearsed, like she'd planned for this fallout without ever believing it would happen. Her voice trembled just enough to seem sincere, but her eyes still darted around, scanning the stunned quiet of the room. The kitchen behind them, the hallway beyond, Jonah's sketchbook still half visible on the table like evidence that hadn't yet been filed. She stepped closer, like proximity could reverse gravity. It's not like I had an affair with someone dangerous or insane, she added, as if the nature of the man made the betrayal less sharp. It was one mistake. Emotional, maybe, yes, but physical only once. I swear. He didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at her like he was seeing someone who no longer existed. You're not so perfect either, she snapped next, growing bolder in the absence of his reaction. You think being quiet makes you righteous? You think being patient makes you a saint? You've been a ghost in this marriage for years. Don't pretend you weren't part of this. His eyes flicked toward her then, slow, deliberate. I was building a home, he said. You were building a mask. Her breath hitched, but she recovered fast. I gave you everything. I gave you my 20s, my body, my loyalty for years. You think anyone else would have stayed through your silence? Through your obsessions? Yes, he answered calmly. Someone who actually loved me would have. Her mouth opened, then closed. She tried again. You'll never find someone who loves you like I did. He tilted his head slightly, voice barely above a whisper. God willing. Her face collapsed a little. The room shrank. The illusion she'd wrapped herself in, of control, of superiority, began to crumple. I made a mistake, she said again, but this time her voice cracked, and the words came with a stumble, like a thread being pulled too fast. I was scared. I felt invisible. I didn't know how to fix us. You didn't try, he said. You replaced us. He made me feel like I mattered again, she admitted, pleading now, hands shaking at her sides. He listened. He looked at me. And Jonah looked at him too, he said, each syllable deliberate, sharp, long enough to draw him standing where I should have been. And now that image is his memory. That's what you gave him. She flinched, a sound escaping her throat that was part sob, part denial. I can explain it to him. We'll get counseling. We can rebuild. You had your chance to build, he said, his tone a scalpel now. You chose shortcuts. You chose flattery over loyalty. Noise over substance. You didn't fall, you planned this, one justification at a time. I didn't plan for this, she said, gesturing to the room, to the ruined silence, to him. I didn't know it would cost everything. That's the difference between us, he replied. I calculate cost. You gamble with other people's hearts and call it growth. Please, she whispered. Her mascara was starting to streak. Don't do this in front of, everyone's already watching, he interrupted, gaze unwavering. They've been watching. They saw you become vague. They heard you talk about boundaries you never gave me. They noticed the smile you saved for your phone and the disinterest you served at the dinner table. You weren't subtle. You were careless. Her breathing quickened. I didn't mean for it to get this far. You never do, he said flatly. That's why it always does. She moved toward him again, desperate now, reaching for his hand. Don't throw away everything we've built. He stepped back, not harshly, but enough to let her hand fall empty between them. You already did. I'm just refusing to live in the ruins. And that was it. That was the moment she broke. Not from anger, not from shame, but from the dawning horror that she was no longer the center of the equation. That the man who had once bent to preserve the peace was now the man letting the silence settle like ash. He didn't need to scream. He didn't need to storm out. He just stood there, calm, still, watching as she unraveled in the home she tried to reshape without him. Her voice fell to pleading, scattered phrases, fragments of promises she was too late to keep. And when the noise finally died, he didn't say another word. He just turned, slowly, and walked past her, through the doorway, through the guilt, through the wreckage of what she thought she could control. And that silence, heavy and final, was the sound of power shifting forever. She showed up at his office 2 months later, thinner, paler, wearing a dress that once screamed confidence but now just looked like it belonged to someone else. The receptionist hadn't recognized her. Security almost didn't let her through. She hadn't called first, hadn't emailed, hadn't even waited in the lobby like a professional, just walked in, eyes sunken and wild, clutching her phone like it held the last thread of her identity. He didn't rise when she entered. Just glanced up, pen still in hand, a document half-signed before her silhouette interrupted the light. I just need a minute, she said, voice hoarse from what might have been crying or too many sleepless nights. Please, just a minute. He gave her 30 seconds. That was all she got. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't offer a seat. And that was when she broke again, right there, in front of the same man she'd once tried to make feel invisible. I still love you, she said first, as if those words could somehow rewind everything, erase the graphite drawing their son had made, undo the weight of all the nights she smiled into her screen while turning her back on a family she no longer respected. We were soulmates, she added, more desperate now. We've been through everything together. You were the only one who ever understood me. He looked at her like one would look at a distant cousin they hadn't seen in 20 years, familiar, but irrelevant. Please, just talk to me, she whispered. Just tell me what you're thinking. And he did. Not cruelly. Not loudly. Just truthfully. I'm thinking about how Jonah doesn't ask about you anymore. I'm thinking about how I sleep better without hearing you fake dreams to avoid conversation. I'm thinking about how you stood in this same energy 2 years ago, telling me about personal growth, while you were already erasing me. That's what I'm thinking. She blinked fast, one tear falling, but not followed. You don't mean that. You're angry. I'm not angry, he cut in, softly, finally. That's the part you never understood. I was angry the night you smiled into your wine glass and told me you felt seen again by someone who wasn't me. I was angry when I watched our son draw another man into our family portrait. That anger's gone now. What's left is emptiness. And that's worse, isn't it? Because now you're a stranger with memories I don't want. Her voice cracked then. She reached for the desk, maybe for him, maybe to stay upright. He's gone, she mumbled. The guy, he's gone. He ghosted me. Said he wasn't ready for something serious. Said he didn't sign up for a kid. Her laugh was sharp and hollow. He said I came with too much baggage. She looked up at him then, eyes raw. I don't have anyone. My sister won't return my calls. My mom said I embarrassed the family. My friends, our friends, have disappeared. Even the ones who used to defend me. They think I'm a monster. He nodded once. Because you were. She staggered back like he'd hit her, but no apology came. No pity. No warmth. You could have fought for us, she said, voice rising, losing its shape. You could have helped me, been part of the solution instead of just walking away. You were never looking for a partner, he replied. You were looking for an audience. And I stopped clapping. That did it. The rest of her composure slipped out through her fingertips. The woman who once ran social circles, who curated the perfect couple image on every platform, who played supportive wife with the precision of a seasoned actress, now reduced to a pleading wreck in front of a man who no longer felt the pull to fix her. I don't know who I am without you, she whispered, mascara streaking, voice shrinking. That's the first true thing you've said today, he replied. She didn't leave right away. She lingered, maybe hoping for mercy, maybe waiting for some flicker of the old version of him to resurface. But all she got was silence. A silence that said, you chose this. You broke the mirror, now live with the shards. And when she finally turned and walked out, heels wobbling, shoulders caving, he didn't watch her go. He just picked up his pen, signed the document, and handed it to his assistant without looking up. Divorce finalized. House settled. Custody arranged. No drama. No shouting. Just an ending. The kind she never believed would come. Because she thought she could always come back. Because she thought she'd always matter. Because she never realized that some men, when finally cut too deep, don't scream. They walk away clean. And once they do, there's no path back. Not through love. Not through guilt. Not even through shared history. Just nothing. Thanks for listening. Let me know where you're watching from and what you would have done if it were your wife.